Hello GSV peeps, dangly peeps, family and all. Here's another episode of Kerbal Space Program. Episode 8 I believe in this DLC pack of making history missions, which as we've been seeing is not quite as straightforward. This next mission we are actually going to land a Kerbal on the moon, and to do that they have given us a few parameters. We have to include one of the command pods, we have to include the lunar lander thing, so I've gone for sort of a backwards facing thing here. So we have the command pod which can hold 3 Kerbals and get down here to the command get back in the command pod, and 2 can land on the moon itself. So we'll plan to take 3 and put this service module in, which rightfully couldn't figure out quite what to do, but I packed it full of a little bit of extra fuel. There's a probe in there and a battery as well. I've gone for a final stage, or a top stage here, with a couple of reaction wheels, and then I've gone for a sort of intermediate stage here. I've got way too much DV for what we need to do, which is why this rocket's a little bit on the large side. But I was trying to showcase some of the engines, trying to get use the boosters here with asparagus. I just couldn't get it to to lift off with enough sort of thrust to weight ratio using some of the making history engines as such. I ought to go back and try again, but it was getting late last night. Made a few mistakes along the way, so instead of just commenting, I don't know. Anyway, the following morning, in order to put which engine I've got in the middle here, but I had to put that funny little cowling over the top of it because it's the engine fits. That is one of the making history engines there. I can't remember what it is. We'll see it when it's uncovered, but it left that funny little middle thing. Anyway, check in the staging and we'll go for launch. Interesting looking craft. What does that mean? Cheeky little thing. It's a box standard rocket, surely. I know it's overpowered, but anyway, let's get on with it. As you can see, we're going up to 100,000 orbit, and it's at this point here, I don't mind telling you, we had a funny cutscene because I realised I hadn't actually included any electricity on the lunar module itself, so a little bit worried about the power, so I decided to go back and put a fuel cell on. Now obviously playing this back at now at about 4 times speed I believe, and as we arise, there's the first boosters going straight off. We're going a bit classy. A little bit of Pachobel in the background here. Second set of boosters gone. I seem to be chewing through these boosters quite a lot. We could have made those slightly bigger, but we're getting up there. Admittedly, they seem to be chewing through a little bit quicker because we are playing back at about 4 times speed. There's the other booster gone as well. Another set of boosters, but we are up around sort of 20,000, so that's about the sort of point where I quite like being boosters, because actually we're up into the thinner part of the atmosphere, so we don't need the extra help. There go the last lot. I had to put lots of struts on this because it was wobbling a little. It's quite tall as rockets go, and it's got that sort of link in the background, link in the middle, which makes it flex a little bit more, I think. He says. So we're going to burn straight up to 100,000 here. Since we're into the thinner atmosphere, I'll get rid of the cowling so we can have a look at my lunar lander a little bit closer, to be honest. I've got a Terrier engine on there, so a little bit of fuel. Can't remember, I think I put about 1500, 1600 DV of fuel on there, so more than enough to actually do a nice safe landing and get back into orbit as well, which I think takes about 800. Tweak ourselves up to 100,000. A little bit away to get up to the periapsis, or the apoapsis rather, but as you can see, pretty much it's not going to take a lot to circulise the orbit once I'm up to there. So I'm just going to plot the node in. And as the node comes around, push that out to 100,000-ish. Hopefully sort of managed to not push the apoapsis out too much. So it's only 100 meters per second burn there, so about 4 seconds. I don't know whether this way is more efficient to do it this way than it is perhaps to burn out to say 80,000 and then tweak your orbit out afterwards. I just thought this was perhaps the best way of doing it, is burn your apparatuses straight out. Perhaps you're using too much fuel early on when you're in the thicker part of the atmosphere to actually lift that out when you'll be more efficient to do it when you're only out, when you've got an entire orbit out of the atmosphere. But you can see I'm a little bit over the top here, or underneath rather. Obviously my takeoff there isn't quite as efficient as it should be. Burn off that 100 meters per second. It's relatively quick and easy to do. And almost immediately the little purple light disappears, which means that we should get a little pop-up message saying, no, we're not going to get it. So we just go straight for the moon then. Now again, a little bit on the incline, but shouldn't really affect me. I should be able to get a moon encounter fairly easily. So now we're going to set the view to the moon. We're going to tweak our periapsis in. Then we need an orbit, an equatorial, is that the word? I don't know if it is. Equatorial, that's the word. About 33, so we'll try and get there as much as we can within this burn, but we can always tweak it, particularly change the inclination out halfway out if you like. A lot more efficient to do. Not that I'm short of fuel, just on about sort of 50 meters per second left in this stage now, so pretty much straight after we start burning this off. Normally I'd like to sort of perhaps ditch this last stage before we circularise the orbit so it burns up in the atmosphere, but I'm not too worried about these missions because we're not. Each mission starts off cleanly, so there is no space debris to think about. Luckily I put 2 of those reaction wheels in, because even now at 4 times speed like this, it takes a little while to wind this thing around. I mean, obviously if I ditch this stage, quicker, but yeah, we'll get there. So as we come around to just about, well, I've got prograde, but there's my 50th second. I didn't start the burn immediately because I was slightly worried that this cowl didn't inject in the same way as it should have done. I didn't want to blow anything up and risk damaging this engine. This is the old Mastodon engine out of the Living History, Making History DLC. It's a relatively powerful engine, but not overly powerful looking at its size. And I've chucked it onto a big tank here, rather than keeping it on the little tanks, only because trying to keep just trying to keep that form factor. What I perhaps should have done is changed it to a slightly smaller tank, and then we would have had a much fuel, would be a little bit taller. So I'm trying to keep the height down and make that. As we slowly burn out, I've said the engine's not as powerful as it would look. So we'll speed this bit up a bit. There we go. Just slowly tweak it up to the final one. And then obviously move out. Just as I say, slightly overcooked it there, but that's fine because we can adjust it when we adjust halfway down through here. So I'll just tweak that out. That's it. I can tweak the anti-normal and normal node as well. Just get it in a nice equatorial orbit there. I'm going to delimit this, partly because once you start getting down to 1 second burns, they are just ridiculously silly. So we'll derate that engine, just make it slightly more manageable, certainly to do it by hand. If you're using McJeb, you don't have to worry about that too much. It does improve the accuracy, but McJeb's way more accurate than what I can be normally. So point ourselves, well, I can't remember which way we need to do, but just before we move on out, I want to move people across, and this is where I find, for some reason, we've got no personnel. Right, hold on it. Stop the music. Stop the music. Hey Jeb, where are you and the guys? I'm flying a spacecraft here, and you're not on board. You stopped off for second snacks. Well, what am I supposed to do now? I've got this spacecraft. What do you mean, come back for you? I can't exactly put this thing in reverse, you know. And with that, he hung up on me, so we rebuilt and we packed it full of extra snacks and made sure everyone's on board and returned back to where we were. So, as you can see, we have circularised around the moon, and it's given us our landing spot, which of course wasn't going to be anywhere near our orbit. But this is why I overpacked the rocket with some extra fuel, extra DV, so that we have plenty of time. As you can see from here, it's about 350 DV just to incline the orbit down to there. Now we can be a little bit clever in that we can do most of the work with the rocket rather than the landing module. And as we move around to this point around here, we're preparing to separate the module from the command, the lunar module or Munar module from the command module. We can reduce our periapsis so we get a landing point, and then we can do the separation and then increase the periapsis back out again so the command module doesn't land on the moon. I say land, it wouldn't land, it would probably crash. Yeah, no, we've left Valencia with Valencia on the command pod. She's not as good as Jebediah, so Jebediah's on the module. So we're just going to move the lunar module away from the rocket. We don't want to fire that off and put it back into its orbit, and then blast the lunar module the other way. So there we go, fired it. Now we'll concentrate on Jebediah and Bill. Time warp around to a bit closer to the landing point. Now I've got a Terrier engine here. They're quite good on these landing modules. They've got enough thrust to weight ratio to make a difference. You're not having to do massive great burns to slow down like loads of speed. So about here I'm sort of thinking, could I land closer to the or not? But in a minute I check the mission and find out plenty close enough. Actually this area down here looks flat enough. Don't want to land on a slope. So I'm using the RCCS. Lots of RCCS, puts an extra RCCS as you can see on there. Plenty of fuel on there. Don't mess around too much, so I need about 800 DV to actually get back up in orbit. In danger of using more than my fair share, if you like, to actually slow down. It's going quite nicely at the moment. Just tickling a little bit on the speed, slowing us down. A little bit more horizontal speed to knock off. That's about it. Just got to touch down a little bit gentle. The RCCS is quite powerful enough to slow us down, so I have to do it on the main engine. And then I find I've got the same problems I had with the probe. And I bounced it there. Just thought I'd land a little bit too. There we go. That's it, on the moon. Well, there we go. Isn't that marvellous? Right, Jebediah's going to have he's going to have the honour of placing a flag with the moon in the background there. Label it the Highlands. So we've claimed the moon. I don't see why Jebediah should get all the fun, so Bill comes out to some reason Bill didn't want to turn around. That's because I turned his RCCS was over anyway. But time for a quick screenshot. There we go. Oh, they are very excited. Now I've got a bit of a problem. This is why you should always put ladders, because trying to reach up and grab something is a little bit on the tricky side, but I get both in after a way, and then it's time to return back to orbit. Just check in to see where the command module is. So we'll sort of perhaps take off just as I missed it. This is the problem using time warp. I want to take off just as it comes. Set it as a target. So we can accelerate something like towards target and get ourselves into orbit. A little bit worried about the DV, but should have enough to get into orbit. Then we'll worry about the rendezvous later. I do have a backup plan for that. Jebediah is obviously back in charge of the sound system. He's gone back to the Pachobel, having missed it the first time round for not actually being on the aircraft. So now the plan is to sort of point ourselves towards target, but actually then burn to the north, so burn there is anti-normal or normal, to sort of try and get the same inclination. And in doing so, what I've done is actually overburnt. I should have burnt more horizontal maybe, or less horizontal, to try and keep the apoapsis down. Either way, I've wasted some fuel to get actually where we are. But what I have got is I have got just about enough fuel. I've got about 160 I believe there, and I reckon we've got enough to just about use about just under 100 to get us into a circular orbit, which will give us about 50 meters per second really to somehow squeeze some sort of rendezvous out. Now the plan for the rendezvous then is, if I haven't got enough DV to actually do a rendezvous with the Munar lander, is to come around with the command pod. Now the command pod's got plenty of fuel on it. What it doesn't have is RCCS, but provided I get it close enough, then I can use the RCCS on the Munar lander to actually do the docking. So that's the plan. The other problem we've got is that the Munar command module there is actually ahead of the lunar module. My plan was originally to bring the lunar module into a lower orbit and let it catch up, but because I've accidentally gone into a higher orbit, I'm going to have to do a couple of orbits to get them in about the right position, because at the moment the command module's the one travelling faster. So just tweaking around, and like with most of these things, when you're actually filming, I really struggle to get any sort of decent. I mean, there was that one there on the second orbit, but we weren't going to get around the first orbit, to be honest, because yeah. So I gave up, cut the video, did a couple more orbits, and then came up with a nice little, I think it was 2.5 kilometre sort of separation without too much of a problem there. As always, you're trying to do it fast and you figure it out, you wait, do a couple of extra orbits, and you find out you're in a much better position to be able to do it. So there we are. Just going to need to burn out. So we'll be burning prograde with a little bit of I don't know which one that one is. Anti-grade, prograde, whatever. Anyway, obviously the next job is then to actually sort of match up with our target. Pachobel's getting a bit loud. Jebediah's obviously getting a little bit rocky in the... I'm surprised he hasn't gone for the hooked on classics version, but there we go. So matched our speed. Now we're just going to burn towards the target, and then burn away from the target, and burn towards the target until we match our speed, or get our intercept right down to, again, don't want to be too close, but I want to be within sort of a couple hundred meters maybe. Just kick that last stage out. Plenty of fuel left in it, but this last stage I've got on the main command module there is a lot more manageable. And playing it back at about full-time speed. I would not be docking at this speed normally. Making sure I've targeted the docking port and used Matt's method. Cheers, Matt. Getting both things to target each other so they stay roughly in a line. I see a slight problem there because I don't think it was the RCCS keeping me off rather than actually letting the magnetics go in. I transfer all the Kerbals to the main command module. So I was thinking of ditching the Munar module here because I don't need to take that back home, but you know, and no doubt Jeb and Bill have eaten all the snacks in the Munar module. Well, the next thing to do then is to transfer back home, and all I need to do there is probably do either an anti-normal or a normal burn here, which will sort of bring me into a roughly equatorial orbit. So at this point here, I actually tried to burn once I'd skipped around to the point, and even though the thrust was up, the engine would not light, and I couldn't figure it out. In the end, what it was, I'd forgotten I'd actually deactivated the engine when I was playing around earlier, so it was trying to burn the Munar modules, just burning off that last sort of, I don't know, 50 dV or whatever it had in there. I couldn't figure that out. Anyway, so I thought, well, is it a command thing? Is it somewhere where the probe core's still taking? So I thought, well, let's ditch one of these modules. So I got rid of the Munar module, and then suddenly realised, yeah, I haven't activated the engine. So full throttle, activate the engine. But that could have been a lot worse. There again, I don't think I've ever docked quite so smoothly or with such speed at full throttle as I did just there. But as we continue to burn out, because of the delay in burn, I find that actually my predicted, or what I would like to have done, get myself a nice equatorial orbit, didn't quite happen, but it's close enough for government work, and here we are, nice little roughly equatorial inclined orbit. Make sure the periapsis isn't going to burn straight into the into Kerbin at that speed, because I'd hate to do that. Let's do a little bit more controlled. And once I'm actually on, I need to fast forward and get actually onto a Kerbin orbit rather than a Munar orbit. Look, there we go. As per normal, they've given us a landing spot, a splashdown spot, absolutely miles away from where my orbit's going to take me. So, first thing I think we do is reduce that apoapsis down to a manageable level, so we can figure out how to get down to a landing spot. We have to burn normal, anti-normal again, and figure out where we're going to splash down. Now, we did something similar last time. Pretty sure we could probably do it again. It's about sort of figuring out just about where you need to enter the atmosphere and how far back it'll. It's about 1/8 of the way around the globe, between 1/4 and 1/8, something like that. So yeah, that should be fairly easy to do. So coming up to our anti-normal burn, or is it the normal burn? And I'm rather thinking at this point I've misjudged it, because I've completely forgotten that actually that is a nice orbit. If that point was going to be there when we came around the orbit to be there, but we're not, it'll have moved on. So never mind. I've gone for a periapsis of Pachobel's finished. I've gone for a periapsis of what on earth? So I've gone for a periapsis of the guys are obviously a little bit excited about getting home. Hold on 1 minute. Right, turn it down. Jebediah tells me this is a carbonic dance, and like their space career, it has its very loud, exciting bits, followed by some very boring, quiet bits. So I'm guessing this is a boring, quiet bit, and we'll have another loud, exciting bit. Back to the space flight. as you can see, we are now in the atmosphere. We are burning some speed off, and I've ditched the Munar orbit. Not before checking that actually all three guys are still on board, the bit I want them to be on board. Now my idea is that I can stay as much as I can without burning anything up. Kept the engine on so I can retrograde burn if I need to burn some more speed off, but I've made a bit of a mistake here in that I took the white line as being our trajectory, seeing that come down quite nicely, but it's not. That's the Munar lander's trajectory, and mine's the blue one, which is much further out, so I wasn't burning off as much speed as I can. Keep an eye on this temperature here because that's the engine, but engines actually make quite good sort of heat shields because they're used to burning hot, I suppose. But anyway, and as I said, it looks like it's coming down quite nicely, except I'm looking at the wrong line. So in a minute I'm looking at the height, and the height is coming back up, which means actually we're going to pop out of the atmosphere, and yeah, I'm not going to end up, because I'm pretty much out of fuel here. Now, well, if we came around a full turn again, I would dip back into the atmosphere at this point, and we could just keep going around aero braking. But to be honest, it's long and it's boring, and there's no way I'm going to make that landing spot now. So in a minute, I decided to go for a retro burn, just to see if we can drop that apoapsis down. It drops down remarkably easily, but I just don't have enough fuel to make it worthwhile. If I had another couple of hundred DV, I might be able to make that landing spot. Just burn the apoapsis down to just come to the periapsis and then lands in the ogg there. But it's not going to do that, so we are going to have to skip around and just basically sit in the atmosphere, aero braking as much as we can. Having decided that it's not worth keeping the engine, I go to pop it off, and lots and lots of explosions, and I haven't quite figured out why we haven't quite separated properly. It seems to be that my capsule wants to accelerate or wants to go faster than the bit I've still released, so I've just sat on top of it wobbling away. But don't seem to have exploded along with those explosions, so we're doing alright at the moment. So I eventually got it separated. This may have been part of the problems, because some of the fuel, which actually is still full, is still attached to the command module. And as we enter re-entry, it doesn't seem to explode, so we're nice and safe. Deploy the parachutes nice and easily. And heading up. Yep. Very loud music, thank you, Jeb. Yes, and splash down. Excellent. And a bronze award, and saved every Kerbal. Well, yes, I like to save Kerbals. So, thank you very much for joining me. If you've enjoyed the episode, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see some more. Let me know what you want in the comments. And I'll catch you all in the next one.